What up, reader fam? Today I'm going to be discussing with you how I take notes while I read. This has weirdly been one of my most requested videos from you guys. It feels like lately with every video I get somebody asking me if I will go over in a video how I take notes while I read. So today I'm gonna give the people what they want, even if it's not that entertaining of a video. I apologize in advance. This isn't like a revolutionary idea or anything, and my method is pretty much the same as like taking notes in class, but some of you guys wanted a breakdown, so that's what I'm gonna give you today. First off, let me talk about a few pros and cons to taking notes. First up, the pros. Taking notes helps you remember things, obviously. It's really helpful when it comes to reviewing the book that you're reading and taking notes on. All your thoughts are there in your handy dandy notes, so you don't have to rack your brain trying to remember what you thought of the book. Now let's talk about a few cons. The one that I find the most aggravating is that you have to take breaks from reading in order to jot down some notes. And that can be really difficult when you're deep into a book and you don't want to stop reading it. It can honestly just be a hassle. That's all I could really think of when it came to the pros and cons. Now I want to go over my different note-taking styles, because it's important to note that I take a different style of notes for each book that I read. For books that I want to do a full-on video book review and discussion for, where I dive deep into the book, I not only talk about my feelings on the book, but I dive deep into spoilers. For books like that, I will take extensive notes on. When it comes to a book where I just feel like I'm going to do a book review on, I'm not going to dive deep into spoilers, I'll just take little notes here and there while reading. Those are generally the two different styles of note-taking that I do. Now you might be asking, how do you decide which book you're going to book talk and which book you're just going to do a book review on? And really, I generally just play it by ear. I can usually tell the second I start reading the book if it's going to be one that I want to take extensive notes on, and there's also the times when I start reading the book and I can just tell I just want to do a book review on it. You just gotta follow that instinct. There are also times when I don't take notes at all while reading the book, because I just don't feel like taking notes while reading. I don't feel like being a book reviewer sometimes. Sometimes I just want to enjoy a book and not have to take notes left and right on every little thing. Of course, then I finish the book and I regret not taking any notes at all. Now let's talk about what I use to take notes. My preferred medium for note-taking would be to use a notebook and a pen. Pretty dang simple, I know. I just get these cheapo notebooks from Walmart. I think they might be like $1 maybe even less than $1. I can't remember right now off the top of my head. And I usually put on the front of the cover the books that I have taken notes on in this notebook. I find that just to be really helpful and it keeps me organized a little bit. The other two things that I use for note-taking are things that I don't necessarily recommend because they can be really distracting, and that is my phone and my laptop. I use my notes app on my phone, and for my computer I use Scrivener, which is just like a writing program. And I usually use these when I am feeling lazy and I don't want to write by hand. The main reason I don't recommend using your phone or your computer is because it is so easy to get distracted. If you get a text message or a tweet, you're more than likely to click on that text message or click on that tweet and see what people are saying. And the next thing you know, you found yourself on Twitter for 30 minutes and you've cut into precious reading time. So that's why these are the last things that I would recommend for note-taking. A notebook and pen is where it's at, y'all. Okay, now it's time for the breakdown. I'm gonna give you a breakdown of how I take notes while reading. As I'm reading, I will just literally jot down all of the things. It can be annoying at times because sometimes you just want to keep reading, but in the end, it's hecka helpful to have these notes to look back on. First up, we have character names and then character personality and details of what the character looks like. I usually end up jotting down every person's name and their importance to the story. Sometimes they don't even end up having an importance in the story though. They could just be a dog walker that your main character knows and they pass walking on the street. And they don't have a real role in the story, but I still jot them down because you never know. They could end up being the person that murders your main character in the end of the story. Next up is repeats. If I notice something is being repeated quite a bit throughout the story, then I will jot that down, because that's usually a way in which the author is trying to be like, yo, I'm trying to be sneaky here and drop a bit of foreshadowing, and it's up to you to bite down on that bait. Mind you, I'm usually pretty terrible of picking up on foreshadowing, even if it's blatantly obvious. If there's an element in the story that I find myself not enjoying, then I will definitely make sure to write that down in my notes. This usually comes in handy when I'm doing a book review because I can point out things within the story that I felt didn't work for me. And I feel like it also comes in helpful with my own writing. You see something an author is doing in the story that you don't like, so it prevents you from making that same mistake in your own books. On the opposite end of that, if there's something that you see the author doing that you really enjoy, write that down as well. I also generally make notes of kind of the play-by-play of the plot. So I'll go from the person went to the grocery store to the person went to learn learn how to play the saxophone. Oh no, the saxophone broke. I'll just, kind of do a play-by-play of what's going down in the plot. I tend to write down bits of dialogue as well. This can be dialogue that I find hilarious and I just want to talk about in my book talk. This can be dialogue that I find empowering if I find characters are like having this super empowering moment and I just want to talk about that empowering moment in my video. What I'll usually do is write a starting point for the dialogue and then put the page number. That way I can go back to that page number and then find the bit of dialogue that I was talking about, so I don't have to write down every little piece of dialogue from that page. And then weirdly enough, I take notes on myself. I know that sounds so weird, but by saying that I mean I take notes on the reactions I have while reading. If there's a big plot twist and I chuck the book on the ground and I'm screaming bloody murder, I'll make note of that so I can talk about it in my book discussion. And I work it into my discussions in a way where it's like, and Jerry fell in the hole and he died and I threw my book on the ground and I started screaming bloody murder. Guys, I couldn't believe it. So that's kind of how I'll work it into my book discussion. The last thing that I usually make notes of are quotes throughout the book that just turn me into the heart eyes emoji. Sometimes I'll write down just the full quote. Sometimes I'll just give myself a starting point to the quote and give myself the page number so that I can go back and look it up and read it over and over and over again and just feel all the writing feels. So yeah, that's pretty much what I do when it comes to note taking. It's a pretty simple thing to do. I also just want to be clear that my notes usually end up being pretty messy. They're not organized in any way, shape, or form, but it works for me and that's all that matters. And if you want to start taking notes on books while you're reading them, then you find a method that works for you. So yeah, you guys should let me know down below if you guys take notes while you're reading. Also, if you have tips for note taking while reading, place those down in the comments. If you like this video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up. I post videos frequently on this channel, so if you want to be notified as to when I post new videos, be sure and go and hit subscribe or go and click the little bell icon and you'll be notified as to when I post new videos. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you soon with a new video. Bye, chew.